In this video, we're going to create a nice hit counter to show the number of successful hits. It will increase in intensity with the more hits we have and reset when the player gets hit. Let's begin. Hello and welcome, I'm your Code Monkey, and this channel is all about helping you learn how to make your own games with in-depth tutorials made by a professional indie game developer. So if you find the video helpful, consider subscribing. Okay, so this is what we want to create. I have my player character here that I can move around and attack, and when I hit an enemy, there you go, as you can see there's a little counter showing the number of hits that I have successfully dealt. The counter goes up, it changes color, and it shakes with some very nice intensity. Now if I do get hit, there you go, the counter resets back to 0, and we have to keep hitting enemies in order to make it increase. This is a really cool element, and very much like the hit counter that I used in Hyper Knights, so you can check that game out to see the final effect in action. It's a very simple element, but also extremely satisfying. We're going to start off by making just the text element and the script to handle it. Then when we have the logic fully working, we're going to polish up the effect by adding shake, size increase, and a color change. So watch the whole video to see the full creation of the final effect. Alright, let's get to it. So here we are in our starting scene. I have a character that I can move around and there are enemies being spawned. I can hit and kill them, and there you go, after 3 hits they die, and they are constantly being spawned and attacking me. So right now you can already see the massive difference that not having the effect makes. The game looks much less impactful. So let's get to work on making the hit counter. Here in the editor, let's first go into the player object, and inside we're going to place the hit counter text. So we go in here and we create a new Text Mesh Pro object. Let's name this the hit counter Text Mesh Pro, and let's locate it above the player. Okay, let's test to see if it's in the correct position with the correct size. And yep, it sounds just about right. It's there on the up and to the right. Okay, good. Now that we have the text mesh correctly located, let's make it look good by using a nice custom font. So over here, I have this custom font. I then converted it into a font asset to be used by the Text Mesh Pro. Then I extracted this texture and modified it to have some nice effects. So as you can see, it has a nice gradient and an outline. To learn how to use custom font textures, check out the link in the description for the video where I cover how to use custom fonts in Text Mesh Pro. In that video, I also cover how to extract the font texture atlas so you can modify it in any image program to add effects, like for example, the gradient and outline in this one. So let's use this font here on the Text Mesh Pro, and we simply drag our font asset into that one. And there you go, that's what the font looks like. So let's try again. And yep, there's our hit counter with a very nice custom font. Now, as we hit the enemies, we want the text to display the current hit count. And as the hit count goes up, we also want to change the color, size, and polish our text. Alright, so let's see how we're going to write the code for that. The first thing we need is obviously a script to handle it, so let's go here, make a new C# script. This will be our hit counter. And let's drag it onto our Text Mesh Pro. Here's our object, and just drag the script onto it. Okay. Now in here, the first thing we need is to grab a reference to our Text Mesh Pro component. So we make a private Text Mesh Pro, which is inside the using TM Pro. And we grab it on our private void awake. Okay, we have the reference to our component. Now we need a function to set our current counter. So let's make a private void set hit counter, and we receive an int for the hit count. Inside, all we do is set the text. So we go into the Text Mesh Pro and set our text to be our hit count .toString. Okay, that's it. These are our basics. Now let's make a simple test. Let's try showing the counter constantly increasing. So over here on the awake, let's create a function periodic. This is part of the CodeMonkey utilities that you can grab for free from unitycodemonkey.com. This class lets me trigger an action every certain amount of time, so it's perfect for this testing. So in here, every certain amount of time, we're going to trigger this action, let's say every half a second. So now inside this action, let's define a hit count, start off at 0, And every half a second, we're going to execute this code. So we increase the hit count, and then we do set hit counter to our hit count. Okay, so every half a second, we're going to increase it and update our text. So let's see. Here we are, and yep, as you can see, the counter is indeed going up over time. Okay, great. So we have a simple visual hit counter that we can update to display any number. Now let's see how we're going to apply it to our player. Over here is the player class. Now the way it works isn't relevant to creating the hit counter. All we need to know is when the player hit an enemy and when he got hit. And for that, up here we have these nice events, which provide everything that we need. Again, always remember to keep your code as cleanly separated as possible. We want the hit counter element to be completely decoupled from whatever implementation of the player that we have. That way, as we build our hit counter, we can use it with any sort of system and use it in various games. All the hit counter needs to know are these events, and the player doesn't need to know anything about the hit counter. So we can go into the hit counter script, and here first we need a reference to the player, so let's go up here, make a serialized field for the private player. Here in the editor, we just drag our player reference, okay. Now that we have the reference, let's go up here into a private void start, and we're going to subscribe to our player's events. In this case, just to keep things simple, let's subscribe to the onAttacked event. This one is fired whenever the player does an attack, regardless of whether he hits an enemy or not. So it's perfect for our testing. So when this event is triggered, we want to increase the hit counter. So let's go up here to define a private int for the hit count. And we can remove our temporary testing code, okay. And now in here, when the player fires this event, we just increase our hit count and we set the hit counter to this hit count. And that's pretty much it. So we are subscribing to the event. We don't care how the player fires that event, all we need is that he does indeed fire it, and when he does, we increase the hit count and we update the text. So let's test. So here we are, and you can already see a slight issue. The hit counter is still saying the default text, so we need to sort that out, but first let's test out the hits. If I attack, even without hitting any of them, yep, there you go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So as you can see, the hit counter is correctly listening to those events and increasing the hit counter whenever they do, regardless of whether I hit an enemy or not. And as you go, it keeps going up, 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 and yep, exactly. Okay, great. So far, so good. Now, let's go back into the code. First, let's fix our default text issue. So in here, we make a function, a private void hide hit counter. And all we're going to do is disable the mesh renderer, which was what the text mesh uses to display it. So let's go up here to grab our reference to the mesh renderer. And here we just set it to enable as false. And when we set the hit counter, we set it back to true. Okay, and now up here on our wake, all we need is call hide our hit counter. Okay, that's it. Let's test. And yep, the counter is hidden by default, and as soon as I attack, it becomes visible. Okay, great. Now let's listen to the onDamage event so we can reset the hit counter whenever the player takes damage. So here all we need to do is subscribe to the onDamaged event, and when the player takes damage, when it takes damage, we set the hit count back to 0, and we hide our hit counter. Okay, that's pretty much it for our reset. Again, we don't care how the player implements this event, all we care is that he fires it. So let's test. So here we are, let's do some hits. Yep, there you go, I got a hit counter of 5. And now if I get hit, yep, there you go, it reset, and now I'm back to 1. So get hit, goes to that, and going up, get hit, resets, and as when I get hit, it always resets. Okay, awesome. So we can now increase our hit count and also reset it when we do take a hit. Now let's finalize the logic to make the hit counter properly work on our attacks. So for the events, as you can see, we have on enemy hit and on enemy killed. We're going to use both of them in order to give a bonus when the enemy gets killed. So before we do that, let's clean our code by making a function to increase our hit counter. So a private void increase hit count. And in here, we just do what we were doing in here. And on this one, we can still call it, even though we're not going to subscribe to it. The unattacked is only for testing, so we can comment that out. And now in here, let's subscribe to the player.onEnemyHit. So this one gets triggered when the player hit an enemy. When he does hit an enemy, we increase the hit count. And then we have the player.onEnemyKilled. So here the player killed an enemy. And here we increase the hit count as well. So essentially on the killing blow, we get 2 hits instead of just 1. So we got a nice small bonus for killing an enemy. So let's test and see if the logic is all completely working. Here we are with 0. Now if I attack nothing, yep, nothing happens. Now if I hit this enemy, 1, yep, there you go, 2, 3, and yep, there you go. He hit 4 because he got a bonus on the killing hit. 1, 2, 3, 4, yep, exactly. Okay, awesome. So all of our logic is working. We are increasing by 1 per attack, getting a bonus for a killing blow, and we still reset if we get hit. Okay, awesome. So our logic is fully working exactly as intended. Now it's time to polish this up to make it look really cool. So the first thing we're going to do is add a color change. We want the color to change based on certain thresholds. So as the hit counter increases, it looks more and more special. Let's see. So we go down into the set hit counter function, and here we just do some very simple ifs. Okay, so here we have a bunch of simple ifs, just testing if the hit count is above certain thresholds and applying a certain color. I'm using this function from the utilities, which allows me to convert a hexadecimal code into a color, so this is much simpler to understand. So after we define our text color, all we need is to apply it to our text. So our text mesh, set the color to this text color. Okay, let's see. Okay, here we are with no hits. Now let's hit. Okay, with 4, we still got just our basic white text. And yep, now it turned blue after 10. Now let's see after 20. There you go, nice green. Now let's see after 30. Yep, we got a nice yellow. Where's more enemies? And hit them. And 40, we got an orange. And after 50, yep, there you go, we got a nice pink. And everything looks very nice, very special. And if we take damage, there you go, back to 0, back to white, back to increasing. Okay, awesome. So we have successfully added different colors dependent on the number of hits. Alright, now for another effect, let's increase the size as the hit counter goes up. So to increase the size, we have 2 options. We can do simple ifs, like we did in here, in order to make specific thresholds, or we can increase the font by a tiny bit per every single hit. So let's try the second approach. In here we define a float for the font size. And by default, we're starting off at 7F. And now we need to decide how much the font will increase per hit. So in here, a float for the per hit font size. And let's put it at 0.07F. So the font size will double after 100 hits. Then all we do is set the font size on the Text Mesh Pro. Okay, that should do it. Let's see. So here we are. Let's see the font size on the first hit. And there you go, we still got the normal size. Let's see if it increases as the hits get higher. And with 16, you can already see that it's quite a bit bigger and quite a bit bigger. And once it reaches 50, it should be quite large and keep increasing, 30, 40. And as you can see, it's definitely bigger, and 48 and 50. And yep, it's quite big. Okay, so this looks good. We should probably add a sort of upper limit, but the logic looks good. Now for a final effect, let's also make the hit counter shake whenever we hit an enemy and then slow down back to 0. Okay, let's see. So here is our limit. We're just doing a simple clamp. We take what we're going to calculate, put a minimum on the starting and a maximum on the double. Okay. Now for the shake, we want it to be just a simple shake. So that means we're just going to move the position around a bit. So let's make a update to do our animation. So in here, a private void update. Now in here, we want to modify the local position. So first, let's go up here and make a private vector 3. We're going to store our base local position, and we grab it on our awake. Okay, so we have our base local position. Now here on our update, we set our current transform.local position. we set it to be based on our base local position, and then we add a random direction. So in here, make a vector 3 for the random direction. So we have a random direction and we add it by that. Now we don't want to add just a static magnitude, we want to have a varying intensity. So let's go up here, make a private float for our shake intensity, and that's what we'll multiply on our direction. So just for testing, let's go here on our awake and let's set it to a testing value of, let's say, 5F. So let's see if the hit counter is indeed shaking. Okay, here we are. Where's an enemy? There he is, and I hit him. And yep, there you go. It is indeed shaking, but obviously way too much. So let's set a more accurate value. Okay, so like this, it's a bit better. It's still a bit too intense, but this is the effect that we want. Let's see. So we want on the absolute maximum to be with an intensity of 1. Okay, so that's the value we want. However, we also want the intensity to drop down over time. So here on our update, first we're only going to shake if the shake intensity, if it is above 0. If it is above 0, then let's decrease the intensity by a certain amount. So a float for the intensity drop amount. And here we define how fast we want it to drop. So let's start off testing with 0.5F. And we reduce our intensity by the intensity drop amount multiplied by time.delta time. Okay, that's pretty much it. So we have a nice float that we set to a certain value, and on every update it's going to drop by a certain amount, and if it is under 0, then we simply stop shaking. So let's see if he stops the shaking. Okay, here he is, and yep, there you go. The shake stopped and went down, and now it's completely stopped. Okay, awesome. So that's exactly the effect that we want. Now, obviously, we don't want to add the shake intensity in here. So we go down here when we hit an enemy, and it's in here that we need to set our intensity. However, we also want it to be per hit. So let's define a float for the base intensity. Then a float for the per hit intensity. And we set our shake intensity to be the base plus the per hit multiplied by the hit count. Okay, so whenever we hit an enemy, we should be able to see the hit counter shake, and the more enemies we hit, the more it shakes. We can play around these values to make it shake more or less depending on the number of hits. So let's test. Okay, here we are. Let's see the first hit. And there you go, just a very, very slight shake, and a couple more, and yep, there you go. As you can see, it increases. It's shaking more and more, and as it goes up, the color is still changing. And there you go, the shake now becomes more intense, and after a while, we still have the hit counter, but no more shake. So now go away, and we got hit. So now let's build it up to the maximum, and see, shake, it's in blue, 20, 24, shake some more, and it's at 30, we are near our maximum. And here we go, hit 40 and getting close to 50, and as you can see, that is a very, very intense shake. So we probably need to do the same thing we did for the text size in order to add a limit. Otherwise, it's going to continue shaking to the point where we can no longer actually see the value. Okay, so we need to add a maximum, but that's exactly what we want. When we hit, it goes up. When we stop hitting, it slows down and stops the shake. Okay, awesome. So here on the shake intensity, we do the same thing. We do a clamp. And finally, let's also add an effect that is not really related to the hit counter, but looks good, which is just a simple screen shake. So in here, when we hit our enemy, let's go to the utils class, shake camera. Let's shake by a small amount. And when we kill an enemy, let's shake a bit more. Okay, so let's see the final effect. Here we are with our final effect, my character moving around. When I hit an enemy, yep, there you go, and there's the screen shake, and there's the shake of the hit counter, and the hit counter goes up. As it goes up, it changes the color. It starts shaking more and more intensely in order to really show that we're getting more and more hits, and keeps going up, and the color changes and goes up to 50, but the counter keeps going up. Everything looks great, and if we do get hit, yep, there you go, we got a nice reset, and we're back on 1. So here we go, keeps growing, keeps shaking, and looks quite awesome. So this is a really great effect, and it really makes things look a lot more impactful. As always, you can download the project files and utilities from unitycodemonkey.com. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel for more Unity tutorials. Post any questions you have in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. Alright, see you next time.